When justice is served, the reactions are unforgettable. Watch as these idiot cops face the moment they're handed life sentences and their shocking responses. Like this first cop, who committed perhaps the worst crime possible and was punished accordingly.
Count 29, rape first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape to first degree.
From jaw-dropping expressions to unexpected outbursts, you won't believe how these former enforcers of the law handle their reckoning. Today, we're exploring how dirty cops react when justice catches up with them, facing the ultimate consequence, life sentences. In December 2015, Daniel Holtzclaw was convicted of the 13 that he was accused of earlier that year, and the following is footage of him regretting what he had done when he found out what grave consequences he'd have to face.
All rise. The Honorable Timothy R. Henderson presiding.
Thank you. You can be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me first make an announcement that we have to have order in this courtroom. There can be no outbursts. There can be no disruptions. If anyone gets out of order, you will be taken into custody immediately and removed from the courtroom. With that, has this jury reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, would you hand your verdict forms to my bailiff, please?
As you can see, even before the verdict, Holtzclaw was terrified because he knew he had committed all of the crimes. But a monster like him wouldn't feel guilty about his actions. He was just not ready to face the karma of what he had done.
All right, the verdict seemed to be in proper order. This is in the District Court of Oklahoma County, State of Oklahoma, the State of Oklahoma versus Daniel K. Holtzclaw, case number CF 2014-5869. Verdict, count 1, sexual battery. We, the jury, impaneled and sworn in the above entitled cause, do upon our oaths find as follows. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery and set punishment at 8 years. Count 2, procuring exhibition. Not guilty of the crime of procuring exhibition. Count 3.
These are crocodile tears, not genuine ones. No one pitied this monster because of the terrible sins he had committed. You'll see that the verdict couldn't have been more just.
Defendant is not guilty of the crime of first degree, nor lesser included. Count 4, procuring exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 5, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 6, defendant is not guilty of the crime of stalking. Count 7, defendant is not guilty of the crime of sexual battery.
By the time the judge finishes, you won't be able to count on both hands the number of crimes this man has committed.
Count 8, defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 20 years. Count 9, rape first degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of first degree. Count 10, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 16 years. Count 11, rape first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of first degree, and punishment is set at 30 years. Count 12, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy.
I can't comprehend how he can't even feel emotion. Did seeing the helpless faces of those women not trigger anything inside him, make him stop himself from raping his next victim? Nothing stopped him. He didn't feel emotion then. How does he feel it now? How does he only feel bad for himself?
Count 13, sexual battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery, and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 14, battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery, and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 15, procuring exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 16, forcible. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy. punishment is set at 16 years. Count 17, forcible oral. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of forcible oral.
The judge barely had time to catch his breath before moving on to more of his crimes because of the sheer amount of them.
Count 18, procuring exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring exhibition. Count 19, procuring exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition. Count 20, rape degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of rape first degree. Count 21, sexual battery. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of sexual battery. Count 22, sexual battery. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of sexual battery. Count 23, sexual battery. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of sexual battery.
My question is, when you've done even a quarter of these many sins, you know something bad will come, so you'd better be ready for it. But this man, you can't call him a sorry person. This monster was crying like he didn't see any of it coming at all. How dumb was he to think he could have gotten away with everything?
Count 24, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy. Count 25, rape second degree by instrumentation. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of rape second degree. Count 26, indecent exposure. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of indecent exposure. Count 27, forcible sodomy. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy, and punishment is set at 16 years. Count 28, rape first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape first degree, and punishment is set at 30 years.
It's just amazing to see that he was getting what he deserved and justice was being served. Watching these evil criminals get owned in ways they couldn't even imagine is incredibly satisfying.
Count 34, sexual battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery, and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 35, defendant procuring exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring exhibition. Count 36, procuring exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring exhibition. Let me ask the jury, is this your verdict, so say you all? All right. Counsel, would you like to examine the verdict forms?
Not to say no.
No. All right. Mr. Holtzclaw, if you and your attorneys just come forward. Mr. Holtzclaw, this jury finds you guilty of the various counts. You will be remanded to the custody of the Oklahoma County Sheriff for formal sentencing set January 21st, 2016 at 10 o'clock a.m.
Your Honor, I'd ask to poll the jury.
To sum it up, he got 263 years in prison. He could die thrice and still have time to spend in jail, completely deserving of a behemoth like him. Despite him being a cop, he was given no privilege, and this is exactly how the judicial system should be. Up next, we have a cop who thought he could hide things from the higher-ups, but he was dead wrong.
Approximately how many rounds of ammunition did you find?
Approximately 5,000 rounds.
In April of 2024, former FBI agent Todd Brown took the stand and discussed his search of 4 of Jamie Null's properties. Jamie Null, a former Clark County sheriff, was accused of using a business card for personal purchases and having sheriff's office employees work at a barn of his. However, the extent of his corruption will leave you shocked.
We had contacted Mr. Todd Brown, a retired Federal Bureau of Investigation officer, who we asked to conduct the search. Mr. Brown conducted the search, and pursuant to the court order, we filed on May 1st a copy of the report along with an exhibit that identifies all of the items that Mr. Brown located in the house, and we would like to call him as a witness, Your Honor, to have him detail for the court the location and the items that were taken.
You may.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown? Please have a seat. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties for perjury testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Your Honor.
Thank you. Have a seat. Your witness, Mr. Null.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Todd Brown would reveal some shocking things he found during his search.
Mr. Brown, when I contacted you, I asked you if it would be within your capacity to do an inventory of all our client Jamie Null's properties that he owned for the purpose of securing any additional weapons that might be there, even though the court didn't authorize that, also to indicate whether any ammunition located in those locations. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Also, I've asked you that you were aware at the time that you were going to do the search that Mr. Null was given permission by this court to have a shotgun at the residence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But a shotgun wasn't the only gun that was discovered at Jamie Null's properties. There was something of much more consequence found as well.
Let's start with what properties were you assigned to search?
I was assigned residence at Old Tay Bridge and a pole barn with a cabin next to it, I believe 709 Old Salem Road in Jeffersonville. The residence was also in Jeffersonville.
Okay.
Then a green barn at 711 Old Salem Road, and then a house on Turnberry, I believe it was 2408 Turnberry.
Also, they were also located in Jeffersonville?
Yes, all the properties were in Jeffersonville.
Were you able to locate any weapons in that home?
I did.
And what did you locate?
I located a Glock 26 pistol, semi-automatic pistol, a Sig Sauer 1911 semi-automatic pistol, and a shotgun.
Okay, let's be very specific on the first, the Glock 26. Did you also take a photograph of where that was located?
I did.
Okay, could we have a picture up on the screen which would be for the purpose of having you identify the area where that weapon was found, is that correct?
They did good getting a professional to investigate because no one else could find this slimy cop's secret hiding spots.
Sure.
Where was the gun located?
It was located.
Why don't you come off the stand if the court would permit and point to the photograph?
It was located in with all these items that are shoved into the closet area here.
Was it on the floor? Was it in an item, or where was it?
Actually, at the time that I located it, I was pulling items out of the closet, and there was a nylon zip case, and I opened the nylon zip case to see what was in it, and that's when there was a gun box inside the zip case. I opened the gun box, and the gun and one magazine was in the box.
Was the weapon loaded or unloaded?
It was unloaded.
Okay. Could we show the second photograph, please?
Null had clearly hidden the weapon in the closet. He thought it wouldn't be found, but he couldn't have been further from reality.
So, as part of your search, in searching all of the house, went to the master bedroom.
I did.
Okay, and is that the photograph of a closet located in the master bedroom?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and was there a weapon located there?
There was.
And what was the weapon?
It was a 6 Sauer 1911 semi-automatic pistol.
Okay, and where was that weapon located?
It was located in this area of the floor. There was a pile of stuff on the floor.
Was that pile on top of it?
I'm sorry.
I couldn't see.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
If you'll do that again from the other side.
No, I'm sorry. I located it in this area of the closet. There's a pile of clothes and all sorts of stuff there on the floor, and I found it as I was pulling stuff out.
What Null should have done was that he should have listened to the authorities and only kept the shotgun for self-defense. But he'd just gotten himself into unnecessary trouble. He'd soon pay for going against the orders given to him.
Approximately how many rounds of ammunition did you find?
It would be a really rough estimate. I've detailed it in my report. Approximately 5,000 rounds,
What caliber?
various calibers. They're 9mm, 45, 380, 5.56.
If the actual figure was anywhere around 5,000, that is beyond insane. What was he planning to do with so much ammunition? Go rob a bank?
7.62. That's 22. And there could be others. That's what I recall.
The two guns that you found, the Glock and the SIG,
Yes, sir.
were you told where to look for those?
No, sir.
Nobody told you to look in the master bedroom closet or the laundry room closet?
No, sir.
Did you have any contact with the defendant, his wife, or his daughter?
With his daughter.
Which daughter?
I think Grace.
What was the extent of that contact?
Just to advise that I was at the home.
Had you ever met any of them before?
No, sir.
Had you ever met the defendant before?
I do not specifically recall ever meeting the defendant.
Even though he was in law enforcement for about 30 years, that overlapped the same time that you were in law enforcement?
That's correct. I don't specifically recall meeting him.
Did you search any vehicles?
I did.
Ammunition or weapons found in any cars, trucks, or other types of vehicles?
No, sir.
He probably moved anything he had in the vehicles to the house to hide it. Unfortunately, his party had gotten busted.
Do you recall off the top of your head what vehicles you searched?
There was a Trans Am and a BMW at the residence. Then there were several, what I would call classic cars, older cars, at the pole barn at 709 Old Salem Road.
Several, more than 10, less than 10?
I would say 10 to 12.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Nothing else.
Mr. Wells, anything else?
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, you retired in 2022.
Yes, sir.
Were you able to keep your service revolver or sidearm?
No, sir.
Do you have one you typically carry?
I do.
You know where it's at all times?
Yes, sir.
Did you always know where your service sidearm was? It's probably not a revolver, was it?
No, sir.
The judge was indirectly taking a shot at Null, and it was quite amusing to see. Null, of course, knew where all his weapons and ammunition would have been. He should have handed them in, but he didn't, so he'd now pay the price.
So to find a service revolver, I keep saying revolver, service firearm, in a duty belt with other mags, that's not too far-fetched to believe that one would know where that was at, would it? Rhetorical question, you don't have to answer.
Yes, sir.
Just reinforces my decision to impose sanctions. If that prompts any further questions.
None from the
Nothing.
I do have another question or two. The Remington shotgun, was it in a box when you found it?
No, sir.
Was it near a box? A Remington firearm box?
Not that I recall.
Did it still have tags on it?
No, sir.
In reality, the shotgun wasn't intended by Null for self-defense at all.
Where was it at?
I located it in the basement, what I generally term the theater room.
And not loaded?
No, sir.
Not much use for self-defense, was it?
No, sir.
You were in the upper area and you needed a firearm for self-defense, where would you go of the ones you found?
The closest one would be the 6-hour 1911.
Okay. No other questions? That prompts any questions?
One question, Your Honor. Mr. Brown, was there any 12-gauge ammunition found?
Yes, sir.
That's all, Judge.
Mr. Boyles, I'm not going to impose any further sanctions today because it was not certified to me that there was no further firearms. But after today, if there's any further firearms found, there will be additional sanctions. So if your client needs to tell you something, he needs to tell you right now. You need to take a few moments and ask.
I'll be happy to, Your Honor.
The judge was an absolute boss, and he was grilling Null and his lawyer, rightfully so.
The one thing we would add, Your Honor, is the duty weapon.
Let us get back on. Okay, we're back on that. Go ahead.
The only thing we could add, Your Honor, is there's no weapons in the house now, and the duty weapon was seized on the original search. It was in the console of his car.
Okay.
So the one that was found was not the duty weapon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course there would be no weapons after a literal retired FBI officer conducted a search. I doubt anything remained hidden from him.
I have no questions.
Why was it in a service holster with additional mags? And you don't have to answer that.
Well, because I don't carry guns, so I don't know, Judge. I got the BB gun.
That's all right. Mr. Brown, thank you. And thank you for conducting the search for me. I appreciate it. Your excuse.
However, the stupidity of this next cop will leave you completely stunned.
Everyone, thank you for being with us today. On the first day of employment at the Sheriff's Office, and we hire once a month, I meet with the men and women and I said I expect you to be honest, ethical, and moral all the time. I expect you to treat people like you'd want your mother treated. And if you do that, you'll have a wonderful career here. And then I go on to explain that, you know, if you work for a fast food restaurant.
If he expects morality and ethics, Officer John is the last person he should turn to. This corrupt officer is far from being honest.
And they catch you sliding pizzas out the back door to their friends, they will terminate your employment and run you off. But there's a difference. If we find you violating the law at the Sheriff's Office, we will also terminate your employment, but we will lock you up in the county jail. We're held to a higher standard. You can't police a community if you don't hold yourself to a higher standard than you expect of the people from the community. Then I look at them and I say, do you understand what I said?
The sheriff clearly took this matter very seriously. It's uncommon to find a righteous officer nowadays, but this one is determined in his duties.
And I had them all say, yes, sir, I understand. These folks forgot. They forgot what they were taught. They obviously didn't pay any attention to my warning. And as a result, we locked these 3 deputies up on Friday night. And here's how it started. These three folks were on our crime suppression team. We were receiving complaints and actually fears of gang activity and narcotics activity in a community, and they were sent there to try to keep the community safe.
The sheriff narrates the incident, and along with it, harrowing details are revealed.
Stop the narcotics dealing, and as a result, break up the gang activity. While patrolling in the Winter Haven or the Central District area, they came upon a suspect who ran a red light, John Rosinski, who has been with us for about 3.5 years, stopped the vehicle. He was backed up by Jamal Lawson and Garrett Cook. When they stopped, they asked for permission to search the vehicle, which was denied, which is traditionally what our suspects do.
What started as a routine stop for running a red light quickly escalated into a display of poor judgment by the officers. I wish I could say I'm surprised, but the force is full of such egotistical and corrupt cops.
We called the K-9. The K-9 did a search and alerted to drugs. They searched the vehicle and they found in the trunk of the vehicle marijuana and alprazolam, controlled substances. So they arrested the suspect, and in the suspect's pocket, it was a female. She had more marijuana in small quantities and $723. When they wrote in their affidavit to put her in jail, and John Rosinski was the arresting deputy, they wrote that they seized a large quantity of cash.
The discovery of drugs and cash is no surprise given the K-9 alert, but it's disturbing how this moment, which could have been a straightforward arrest, became the foundation for theft and misconduct.
So they wrote it in the arrest affidavit, and they also wrote it in their initial report. So this was on the 21st of December. They take the suspect to jail, they have a day off, they come back to work on the 23rd of December, where John writes his report, and he processes evidence, and he puts several pieces of evidence into property and evidence. But they don't put any cash, any money into property and evidence. What the three of them talk about on the 23rd is, the money's missing. They counted it, all three of them at some point in time counted the money and determined it was $723.
The officers' lack of accountability for the missing money is astounding. Instead of confronting the problem openly, they choose to play the blame game.
And then I'll fast forward to the investigation. Rosinski said Lawson had the money. Lawson said he didn't have the money. Rosinski had the money, and Garrett Cook said, I never had the money, but they all admitted counting the money. So they decided on the 23rd of December, we've really got a problem here. We're missing money. We've lost the $723. They decided at that point what they would do is they would all kick in and replace the money, which is inappropriate, by the way. But they never did. And they did not go to their supervisor and say, we lost the money.
This is where the real rot sets in. All three deputies knew the money was gone, but their solution was to kick in and replace it, a pathetic attempt at damage control.
So time goes on. Rosinski even has a conversation and says, you know, I'm afraid before this is over with, I'm going to get arrested for theft. So they still do nothing. Now let's advance into March, when our suspect's felony charges are reduced to misdemeanor possession of marijuana. Once that happens, our suspect calls property and evidence and said, hey, I'd like to have my cell phone and my money back. She said it was somewhere under $730. She didn't know exactly how much.
However, when the woman asked for her money, the deputy's response was callous and dismissive.
Property and evidence refers her back to the district and to the supervisors where the event occurred. She calls and talks to what we call the RID, Regional Intake Detective. That detective was filling in actually for the RID detective, and she said, look, I would like my money back. So he looks, he pulls up the reports, and he says, we'll get back to you. He calls Rosinski and says, I don't see any money here. Rosinski gets panicked. Rosinski starts talking to his buddies, and I'm giving you the 30,000 foot view because and you can see in the press release, they have different versions of this conversation.
Brzezinski's panicked response shows he was well aware of his wrongdoings. He knew he was in big trouble.
In the meantime, Rosinski also calls down to P&E, Property and Evidence. The Property and Evidence lady goes, no, there's no mention of any money in any of that property and evidence that was seized and ultimately we have. But the Property and Evidence lady went forward and searched all around to see if maybe a piece of evidence got logged by mistake under the wrong case number, and she found none. And then Rosinski says, when he called the lady at P&E, he said, call me back on your personal cell phone. So they had this conversation, and he said, did anybody hear you talking to me? Just forget this conversation occurred.
Brzezinski's suggestion to use personal phones and pretend conversations never happened was a blatant attempt to cover up their misconduct. The case truly opened up when the lady went to her sergeant, exposing the trio's lies and ineptitude.
She hangs the phone up, and she says to herself, Self, that doesn't sound right. So she goes to her sergeant. Her sergeant goes to Rosinski's sergeant. Rosinski's sergeant calls him in and goes, what is this all about? The money. Don't worry about it, Sarge. We got it covered. I'm writing a supplement report. And the sergeant says, stop. I don't know what you're talking about, but stop what you're doing. Everybody did what was right when it came to their attention by our suspect, who is now the victim of a theft. But these three folks. So our Rosinski sergeant gets with his supervision. We start a criminal investigation immediately.
I'm glad to see the sheriff's office taking such matters into their hands with determination. You don't see this from many departments in the country on the basis of professional courtesy.
This all happens from last Monday. Last Monday's when the lady made the initial request for her money back. We do an investigation, and our detectives and supervisors are simply the very best, did what they were supposed to do. When they saw something that wasn't right, they immediately investigated. And within 5 days of this being first brought to our attention and us sorting through and talking to the supervisors and the P&E and completing an investigation, on Friday night, we locked all three of these deputies up.
It is appalling that this was the first time 3 deputies were criminally charged at the same time, emphasizing the rarity of such a situation and how evil these deputies truly were.
Now, I can tell you I've been with the sheriff's office my entire adult life. And from memory, I can only remember 2 other occasions in almost 50 years where we've arrested more than 1 deputy at a time, and that was both of those occasions were back in the 1970s. This is the first time ever that we criminally charged 3 deputies, and it wasn't just for the event, it was for the cover-up. They attempted a cover-up, and they all 3 committed criminal charges or criminal violation of Florida statutes. Let it be clear.
While the deputies failed the community, The department took the necessary actions to ensure justice and to ensure that no deputy ever has the audacity to do such a thing again.
That I commend everyone from the suspect who made the initial report to the property and evidence lady who said this call's not right, to the supervisors on the ground when they first became aware, to the investigating supervisors and command staff for doing the right thing, because that's what we do here, the right thing. If this group of people had done the right thing, we would have done the right thing. They did the wrong thing, we still did the right thing. We locked them up and in jails where they belong.
Auditing all cases involving the arrested deputies was an essential move. Their demonstrated lack of integrity raised legitimate concerns about the accuracy and legality of their past actions. In short, these deputies had just dug their own graves.
So let me give you some background. As a result of this horrific, totally illegal, in violation of all the policies conduct, we will go back to each of these folks and audit every report they ever wrote that dealt with an arrest or seizure of any property. It will take us some period of time. And here's my promise to the community, and here's my promise to these three folks. If we find evidence of any other criminal event, we will go back to your house and we will arrest you again and we will put you in jail.
The decision to drop charges against the original suspect was the only ethical choice, and that's exactly what the authorities did.
At this point in time, obviously, we've not had time to do that audit because we were working all week long on arresting them in the first place. But we took this a step further. Command staff from the sheriff's office, supervisors from the sheriff's office, contacted the state attorney's office and requested that the criminal charges against the suspect be dropped because we can't vouch for their credibility any longer. We also promised to the state attorney's office that we would audit their case reports and the cases they've made.
The department's willingness to review all related cases showed a commitment to transparency. It's a shame that the deputies who constituted it were too stupid to do the same.
And certainly that will be a decision by the state attorney's office as to whether they accept their testimony on any pending cases. But I am mad beyond words that these three folks have impugned their reputation, and more importantly, of the other 1,000+ deputies that work here with their criminal conduct. I'm going to request when I have a conversation with our state attorney that if there's any negotiated pleas, it all requires them to spend some period of time in jail.
The sheriff is frustrated and enraged, and that means bad news for these deputies.
In Polk County vernacular, I'm pissed. They know it. I want the community to know it. We've also made arrangements through our now victim to not only drop the charges, but we will be working with our legal affairs department and our finance department to give her money back. And certainly we'll go back as part of any criminal prosecution on them to try to get us reimbursed. We don't know where the money is. We highly suspect that
Suspicion fell heavily on Rosinski, and for good reason. The lesson he learns during this event will be the food of satisfaction that the victim can cherish forever.
one of the three of them stole it, that it was never lost. We think that's just a lie along the way. But which of the three of them ultimately got the money, we don't know. It appears to us from everything we can put together from all of these convoluted stories that John Rosinski was the last one with the money before it disappeared. And you just don't lose $723 in small bills. So I'm pretty hot about that, as you can well imagine.
What confuses me is how Rosinski thought he could get away with this. His arrogance was his downfall. In the end, no one is above the law.
Well, Michaela Butler, who's 25 and a detention deputy, she decides to go to some kind of an event over the weekend down south with some friends, and she gets arrested for DUI. She's a detention deputy. She was driving erratically on State Road 31 in DeSoto County. She ran off of the roadway. She crossed back over the center line, and a deputy from DeSoto County stopped her. I applaud the deputy for enforcing the law and taking her into custody for driving under the influence.
Despite these incidents, the department's proactive handling of the situation reinforced its commitment to the community, and that's heartwarming to see.
She is suspended pending investigation, and obviously if our investigation supports their investigation, that's also a termination event. I've said it a lot, I'll say it again. We enjoy trust from this community because we hold our deputies accountable and to a higher standard. I appreciate the fact that our deputies and supervisors and employees, support staff, as soon as they got information about wrongdoing, they brought it to our attention.
The sheriff's assertion that the money was likely stolen, not lost, proves the accusations against Rosinski. Things are looking grim for this evil cop.
And we're always going to do the right thing. And this is one more exception, or one more example of doing the right thing. So with that, do you have any questions? I don't know what else I can tell you. I've told you everything that I know. Yes, ma'am.
I know that you said John Rosinski was with the department for 3.5 years. The other two, do you have?
Jamal was with the department 3.5 years, and Garrett Cook 5 years. Garrett Cook and Jamal Lawson were also on the SWAT team.
Sheriff, do you believe that money was drug money that the woman had on her, or you have no way to prove any of that?
Well, that was the original charges because it was in small bills, and small bills are what we see on street sales of drugs. However, once again, that money was taken from her and never made into property and evidence. And it's the craziest thing in the world because they wrote in their report that they took the money. They wrote in the affidavit that they took the money, and then they didn't put the money in evidence. It just makes no sense. Initially, you would think, well, missing money, maybe it's true. Well, if it was true, all they had to do was go to their sergeant and say, we lost the money, we dropped the money.
All the details suggest that Rosinski is to blame here, and it doesn't seem like there's a way for him to escape.
Whatever, Little Bird got the money, but that's not what happened. They had this grand conspiracy from the day they discovered it missing. Well, I suggest to you, it's not missing, it's stolen. And we're not absolutely sure which of the three got it. We suspect the strongest that John, because he was the last one seen with the money. But at the end of the day, makes no difference. They're all in trouble. They're all arrested. They all resigned.
If you think this is good so far, wait till you hear what comes up next.
We didn't have to go through the termination process with them. They resigned on Friday night upon their arrest.
Sheriff, did they say they were sorry or anything like that?
They said a lot of things when we put those handcuffs on them. They found out getting handcuffs put on you is not near as exciting as putting handcuffs on people who commit crime. But our detectives were really pleased to put handcuffs on the three of them.
It seems like a lot to risk for such a relatively small amount of money.
They didn't just risk their job, they risked their reputation, they risked any future opportunities to work in law enforcement, they risked everything over a tiny amount of money.
However, this wasn't the end of Rosinski's suspicious antics.
He sent Rosinski $500 through his Apple Pay. Rosinski obviously had to put it in his account because that's how it moves. Rosinski was doing a supplement report, and he also dummied up a swear-to, that's part of his criminal charges, a swear-to affidavit, and that's when we said time out. So whether or not he would have put the money in evidence or not, we don't know, because he never had a chance to, because we stopped it. We were involved in it. So Jamal is out $500 more that Rosinski has in his account. But we'll let them deal with that.
The extent of this officer's corruption is appalling, but luckily he couldn't get away with any of it.
We're dealing with the criminal part. I don't know, maybe Jamal will want to come back and file a theft charge on him later if he doesn't get his $500 back. We'll take the report. We'll file another charge. But right now it appears to be a civil engagement involved in the middle of a criminal event. Anything else?
The sheriff's concluding statement will truly reinstate your faith in law enforcement.
If we find that they have violated other criminal charges, we'll send out another press release. Thank you. God bless you. We'll see you next time.
And this next cop demonstrated just how arrogant he was with how comfortable he was violating this man's rights.
What's going on?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
So, what's your business here today?
Oh, I'm going to look at court.
Just look at court?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, sitting in there.
Okay, well.
What am I sitting in there for?
That's why I'm asking.
You told me there was no court today.
This is a court that's got nothing to do with you. This is a civil trial.
It doesn't
So
matter
why are
what
you
it is.
doing it?
You can be in there
How
and
come
watch
you were
any court
walking
you want.
around the building and
Because I've
going
never
in
seen this
everywhere?
court. I'm from Minot. Like I was seeing the lady downstairs.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Seems to me like the deputy has just chosen Derek as his fodder for today. And it doesn't matter what laws he needs to break to get his way.
So you're just wandering around sitting in a courtroom where you don't know anything that's going on?
Yeah, why can't you?
Huh?
What amendment is that? The Fourth Amendment? If
I
I'm
don't
not
know if
mistaken?
I'm not going to quote amendments.
So I'm going to go back
just-
in here and
I'm
I'm going to
just
sit
gonna
and
wonder.
watch.
And you're going to be civil. Because if you're not,
Was
there's
I
gonna be
in there?
problems.
Was I in there not being
No,
civil?
I'm just telling you what's
I'm
going to
telling
happen.
you.
No, I'm telling you what's going to
I'm
happen.
telling you what's going to happen.
No,
I'm in there.
I'm
watching
telling you
court.
what's going to
I'm
happen.
telling you.
You're going to go in there, if you're going to go in there, you're going to be quiet. Go down here. Go down here.
Let's walk around this corner. Around the corner.
I had no problem with you being in there, but if you start any shit in there, we're going to be back and you're going to be going to jail.
Didn't I
Do you
just-
understand?
didn't I ask
No,
you
do you understand what I
downstairs?
said? Do you understand what I said?
I asked
Do you understand what I
didn't
said?
I asked you if there was court today and you told me no.
Either this deputy isn't educated in the Constitution or he willingly ignores it. Either way, I'm baffled by how such a person is allowed to attain such a position of authority.
This is a civil trial.
It doesn't matter what it is. I can go in there. That's why there's benches. You can go see it. It's
not your
public.
business.
It's public,
It's
so
not
it is
your
my business.
So why did you go to every office?
Why can't I?
Huh?
What's the
Why?
big deal?
Why is your
Why
problem?
can't I?
Why you
Because people don't normally do that. They don't come in here and go to everybody's places.
walk all over the place for no reason at all?
I'm not most people. I'm going in
I'm
there,
finding that out.
and I asked you if there was court today, and you told me no.
Right, there is
Because
no
I like
court.
to go in my a lot and go watch court.
Yes,
So when
I
is
have
court
the
session? For what?
I want to see your
For
identification.
what law?
I want to see your identification.
What?
I'm
For
asking
what?
you as a peace officer for some ID, so I know who I'm
For
talking.
coming and seeing?
No, because
My-
you're in
look,
my building.
My name's Derek, and this is
Derek.
our building.
Why would this deputy lie to him about there being no court? Seems awfully suspicious to me.
We got security here, right? We've had security concerns in the past, okay? That's what we have. You're right, it is public, okay? But when you're going from room to room, that's unusual, okay? Which is why he's checking on you.
And that's
Now-
okay.
Now listen, because that's suspicious activity, we're investigating, that's what we're doing, okay? Now, because of that, you do have to identify yourself, because we're investigating a suspicious act in a government building, okay? So if you ask for identification, you do have to provide it, okay?
Okay, and why? I don't understand. Like, I go in there and you pull me out when I'm
Because
legally
we're checking,
okay to go in
we're
there.
checking to see what's going on. We're investigating.
I'm legally fine to go in there
Yeah,
and
but
watch
we want
court.
to make
And
sure
you
that
pull me out?
we're
Really?
just seeing what your intentions are and what's going on.
This is just a typical case of cop doesn't want his illegal operations to be checked on. All these corrupt cops antagonize you as soon as you start properly exercising your rights.
For a legally okay act. I don't, they're not, no, it's not suspicious.
It is to me.
Me and you don't have the same options of what's suspicious. What's suspicious to me is you pull me out of court when I'm in there
What's
watching,
suspicious to me?
not being loud. Sir, I let you talk. No, you're not going to shush me. I let you talk. I'm in there watching court and you have me come out here so they can run my ID. I'm in court and I'm sitting and being civil, not making any noise. And I asked you downstairs, was there court today? You told me no. And then you're like, well, it's none of your business. It's public. So it is my business. I can go in there and I can watch.
Okay,
Just fine.
now it's my turn. For no reason at all. All right, we have security concerns in here. People just don't walk around.
I'm not
Oh,
most people.
I'm talking now. Remember, it's my turn. Most people don't talk, don't walk around and go to every office and checking out everything. That is not a normal thing to be done.
It doesn't matter if it's normal, it's allowed by law. But clearly these officers can't understand that.
That is suspicious to me. That's why these gentlemen are here. All right? This is a civil trial. You have no reason really to be in there. There's no reason to be in
be in
there.
any courtroom,
Okay?
watching
You're
what's going on.
giving me an attitude whenever I ask you something, then you're going in there. My security concern is that you might start something in there. I've got a full place full of
I'm
people.
sitting there being civil and quiet, so that your security concerns goes right out the window.
That's where we're checking.
Yeah.
That's how we're checking on you, okay?
You're in my building.
This
For
is
no
our
reason.
building. This is a public building,
My
not
building.
your building.
It's my building.
Public, it's
For
not your
security.
building. It is not your building. So quit saying it's my building.
You're in my building.
It's not your building.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
I am security here. It's my building.
It's
I'm
not your building.
responsible for this building.
Okay, and
So
when
I'm
I came
checking on
in-
anybody that's suspicious.
And I'm not suspicious. You are suspicious. Treat me like a criminal when I'm not.
The entitlement of this deputy is disgusting to watch. He thinks he has unquestionable authority, but he's horribly mistaken.
Let's go public
Let's
right
go
now.
downstairs.
All right, let's go.
All right, let's go.
Thank you.
Come on, downstairs.
For what?
Huh? Sworn in disrupting this court.
I'm done disrupting. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna go in there.
We can talk.
I'm done talking. Officers, I'm done. I just wanna go in there, I wanna sit.
Well,
This is a county building,
Okay, and it's public, we know
If you're
that.
not here for court and they don't want you here, they can do that.
If you're trespassing, they can do that. I'm committing a crime. I'm not committing a crime. I like to go to court and
it's,
watch.
but our building, their building, whatever. If they don't want you here, they can be like, time to go.
If you commit it's like trespassing. If I commit
You don't
a
have to
crime.
commit a crime. You don't have to.
So these cops are just going to lie to this man's face and expect him to fall for it? Each day, law enforcement reaches new lows.
So if they want you gone, then you have to leave.
The problem is I didn't do anything.
Right.
I gave you my ID and I was nice. He's more than rude, and you guys are very nice. And I just want to go in there, I want to sit, and not like I was. Was I doing anything wrong? I was just sitting in there
Right.
watching that I'm okay to do.
Right. But you're at the point where, like I said, he's the head of this building, so what he says, you kind of got to do it. Okay?
So let's get your boss then. Let's get your boss then.
Let's go downstairs.
Is your boss? We're gonna go talk to your
Let's
boss.
go downstairs.
We'll go downstairs and figure it
Yep.
out there, okay?
Take the stairs for us.
Now they're not even going to let him use the elevator? I haven't seen cops treat criminals with such animosity, but this innocent man is sure getting the short end of the stick.
boss, my sergeant, is not here today. That's therefore, I am in charge right now.
All right.
Okay?
So I was up there not doing anything wrong. As you know, I don't have that. If you're like, hey, do you need I don't need help. They ran my stuff, nothing came back. It tells you that I'm not a criminal. I've never been to court for stuff other than watching stuff in Minot. That's why when I ask, hey, is there any court going on? You're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see the building.
This deputy is grasping at straws here. Anything that could get him to kick Derek out for no reason.
So if I got loud, I apologize. But we know that I can go in that courtroom, I can sit there and watch what's going on. It's public record. It's not
My concern
secretive.
is that you've gone to every...
That's fine, because I'm asking
every
questions.
hallway, every office, places where I couldn't see you, and you were there for a while.
And I'm asking
I don't know
questions.
what's going on.
Yeah, you're fine.
All right?
You're absolutely
I'm
okay.
asking questions. You're saying that you have no business here, you just want to sit.
Why can't we sit in the court? I'm just watching. That's all I'm doing.
When I first approached you and asked you about this, you copped an attitude with me.
No, I was
guess
not.
you
I
did.
kind of looked at you and didn't copy
No,
that.
you
And
copped
I
an attitude.
apologize.
All right?
And I went up there and I was sitting and I was like, okay, well,
I'm going to
it's
give you an
done.
option, all right? You go up there, you can sit.
Okay.
I'm going to be up, it's going to be on camera, all right? I'll be watching. If I get any hint, any slight hint that there's going to be a problem, you will be out of here.
At least the deputy's calming down now. Maybe he's finally realized the actual extent of his authority isn't that broad.
Are you not used to talking to people?
Oh, I'm used to talking to people.
I'm not.
I've been here for over 25 years, man. I know about talking to people.
Did I cuss at you?
Huh?
Did I cuss
Did
at
I
you?
cuss at you?
You just said the F word.
Or you want to start, the way I talk, then you can just leave. If you're going to have a problem with the way I talk, then you can just leave.
Am I being unreasonable here?
Gentlemen, let him out of here.
Am I being unreasonable?
Okay. Yeah, like we said, you got your ID? Brett, you got his ID?
I get it back from.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to have to escort you out, but you got to go, man. Okay?
Get your lieutenant, or where can I go?
My lieutenant?
Chief, whoever it is. I did nothing wrong.
Okay.
I was in here just looking around, which is public property. I can do.
Well, this is my sergeant. You want to talk to him? You can talk to
I'm
him.
the supervisor on the
Okay, and I never got an attitude with him. You've seen the way he's acting with me. I was not rude.
I understand.
These officers are only accommodating the deputy's horrible actions. They're part of the same system and part of the reason such people go unscathed after committing crimes.
I can go up there and watch court, and I can sit there and be quiet, and that's what I was doing.
But as head of security, of the building here, if he thinks the actions are suspicious, he wants to leave. Listen to me.
Go ahead.
If he thinks the actions are suspicious, he wants to leave, and you don't have a legitimate purpose other than to watch, I'm going to ask you to leave. That being said, if you do wish to file a complaint, there are options for that. It would be
So where's the suspicion? Can you show me what is suspicious on a piece of paper?
I've already explained to you why it's suspicious. Okay. You come into a government building and you walk through.
Public
It's still
property.
a government building.
But it's still public property.
It's still a government building. Okay. You go through a security checkpoint, get in everything. Okay. And you start going through offices where we have attorneys, important paperwork, lawyers, everything like that here in this building. And you just start going through it.
This man is ranting as is his right, and he's going to give these officers an earful.
We're going to check on it. It's a little unusual. Usually you go to, well, I have court here, I'm going to go to court here, and I'm going to leave, right? I got city court here, I'm going to city court, I'm going to leave. This isn't, it breaks the normal, okay? Regardless if there's a law, it's suspicious activity. We're following up on that. Now, because, like I said, you don't have a legitimate purpose here, and because the security wants you gone, and because even though it's a public building, it is still private, like, treated as private property, okay? Once gone, I'm going to ask you to leave, okay? Now, if you want to file a complaint with how, the sheriff's office or the county handles things, because we're city, here's the city, okay? That would be through the Williams County Sheriff's Office, okay? They're on the 3rd floor over there. Does that make sense? I'll explain that to you.
It really is heartbreaking seeing how such institutions take advantage of the public, and Derek is just another victim.
What is, let's go to public property, right on the sidewalk, because I want to talk to you guys more.
Okay.
Okay.
What is his fucking problem? And now I'm going to use my freedom of speech here because come on, guys.
Okay.
We know that I can go in there and look. I'm from Minot. I'm not from Williston, so there's nothing, suspicious about me walking through. I even asked the lady, what's the difference between municipal and district? And I asked him, hey, is there any court today? In her office, and he told me no.
Yeah.
If he said, yeah, there's court on the 3rd floor, okay, then I'm going to go to court on the 3rd floor and sit there and watch like I was doing.
I mean, there's no city court today. Maybe that's kind of the side of that. But either way, I understand. Yes, you can do court But, and I just want you to see my point when I say this is suspicious activity, okay? It's unusual. We don't have that usually.
Of course you don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
so that's why we're checking on it.
yes,
Now,
of course.
Now he checks on you. Now,
The man was so frustrated, even he resorted to cussing. And why shouldn't he after the disrespectful manner in which he was treated?
when it comes to his conduct,
you see, he just said, fucking, come on, guys, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Right.
So now I'm going to go get my camera and I'm going to sit here on public property, which we know I can do,
Right.
and record in there. Because this is public property. So if he gets an attitude with it, let's be real here.
Right.
It is public property.
this is public.
This is public property.
Right.
I was doing nothing. Like, this is my problem, right, guys? You ran my ID. I've never done anything wrong. I've never stolen, never done nothing. And when he treats me like a, I don't want to use the cuss words. Excuse me, a criminal. Come on, what is that? And I understand. Hey, I understand. It might be what is what do we say? It's suspicious activity. Okay. It's also suspicious for somebody to walk around on a public street and record your house.
These cops keep on trying to insert their lies into the conversation. They think they can get away with this, but karma comes for everyone.
And when you come and they're like, well, there's nothing suspicious, you're going to go, oh, well, you know, the person doesn't like it. Obviously, if you're not in your, I can't go into your yard and record into your window when you're naked. We know the law, the camera law.
Right.
But
now that being said, if your actions do arrest or annoy, that can be disorderly conduct.
Yeah.
There are.
But it's all disorderly. Yeah. And if you're just sitting there,
I'm gonna move to this point for you, okay, my man? Because like I understand where you're coming from. I really do. Okay. Now, like I said, this isn't our agency. Okay. So I can't handle complaints from.
Yeah.
But if you're handling how he was handling that, and I understand that you
The answer 10 to
be the third floor Williams County Sheriff's Office, the ones to talk.
This man's frustrations only grow from here.
dude, the cop comes and totally treats me like a fucking asshole. Like, oh, they know you stole, and for me, it's like, oh shit, you know. And I know you guys are just doing your job, but it doesn't help.
Right.
And I'm a dude that's never broke a law.
I can't speak for Minot PD. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, once again, it's Walmart's private property.
Yeah.
You know,
but I mean, where's the line? Though? Walmart can kick you out for whatever they want. They can even say you stole as long as they're not trespassing you for stealing. Yeah. Which that's false. You can't say to a cop, oh, he stole. And the cop goes, oh, you stole.
And these are the double standards of law enforcement. The way this man has been vilified several times with no remorse is horrifying to think about.
He wants me out of there. I didn't do any crimes. I went in her office and asked if there was court today. Both of them told me no. If they were like, yes, it's on the third floor, I would have went right up to the third floor in that courtroom and just sat there. And that's what I did as soon as I seen it was in session. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's not my business or not. We know that it's public property. You can go in any court. It's an amendment. I got to remember what amendment it is. It doesn't matter if it's district, civil, if it's O.J. Simpson being tried for murder. You can go in the court and you can watch.
Right.
You can't record.
Some things.
Yeah, I mean, some things might be different from others. Yeah. But if they had that door closed and it said like only lawyers and this, I'd have been like, okay, well, I'm not going to go in there. But it was wide open, and I'm not sure who else is in there just sitting and watching. But do any of those people have the right to be in there? I'm not asking you the question. I'm just saying.
I still don't know why these cops took the side of the deputy when they knew he was wrong. But that's just the way most cops are. Sweet on the surface, but just as cruel and corrupt as every single other law enforcement officer.
At the end of the day, though, whatever. That's my view on it now. And when you say, and I hate when people go, oh, I know how you feel. You do not know how I feel. You do not know how I feel. I don't know how you feel. I don't know how you feel. You deal with criminals all day. You deal with some innocent people. So it's like you get, I don't want to go off on tangents, but you know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't like, well, fuck you, I'm not giving you, I wasn't like that. If I was like that, I could have been like, I couldn't see you guys going, okay, well, we're going to do this. I mean, you know, I don't know should I go talk to a lawyer right now and be like, hey, I was in the court down there, they told me there's no court, and then they had me escorted out for no reason. You know, I'll sue him. I don't care.
I mean, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can. It's
you want to file a complaint.
Now the deputy will see the meaning of justice and end up in the very same courtroom he kicked Derek out of.
The protect and serve thing goes right out the window. You're not supposed to protect and serve one person. I thought you're supposed to protect and serve two. So we're supposed to hear a full story. And I know you're not the guy at the building, but you can be like, hey, dude, he didn't do anything. You can't use suspicion to a First Amendment. You know what I mean? Suspicion doesn't trump an amendment right. I'm fine to come in here and look all I want. There's no law against that. Now, if he was like, well, what are you here? Shut up, dude. Walking around, going in, oh, well, what are you here for? I'm fine. Suspicious, yeah.
I get that you don't want to get that trouble. But the same way you have rights to do that, as a person who has the building, he has rights to have your book. I mean, when it comes to that, that's not unlawful.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to his conduct kind of thing, that kind of stuff, you know, that
These cops once again shamelessly insert their lies. Luckily, the body camera footage is there for all to see.
All right, like I said, I'm just gonna get my camera and set it up here and try to get a camera of him. And that's
just don't one thing.
No, and I didn't talk to him.
No,
like,
and listen to me. If confrontation happens, just call the police department.
Yeah.
Don't get confrontation.
No, I didn't, and that's why I walked. I walked away.
And I know you didn't. I'm just telling. I just don't want you to.
You say, oh well, it's suspicious to this. Okay, it might be suspicious for people to talk to themselves. People that talk to themselves think it's just fine.
Yep.
So we're not all the same people. We can't say something suspicious when. Show me on the law what suspicious is, and I understand you're just doing your job.
Yep. Like I said, we don't know what you were doing
checking on you.
Yeah.
And now we know.
Yep. And hey, for him to go, oh well, we want you, dude. He's not gonna sit and treat me like a. I don't want to cuss, but I know it's my right to do so.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to treat me like a fucking asshole and expect me just to sit there and take it from him. I'm an adult.
Derek is finally taking a stand for himself, and hopefully Royce Crone pays the price for his actions as a result.
I have a hard time with, like, if somebody's yelling at me with being quiet, and that's why I couldn't.
Like, we can tell you're frustrated right now. We totally
I didn't
understand.
do anything. I just went in there to watch a court, which I can do by law.
Right.
It's just, there's no such thing as suspicion when I'm walking and checking what our tax dollars pay for.
Right.
Here's the thing, man. Things that what happened. We're gonna have to be past that. Okay. Cool down. Take a walk. Okay. Do whatever you want after that. Just, you know. But now they want you out of there. Okay. Like I said, you want to file a complaint against him, kind of thing. You can do that. But otherwise, what happened today is going to be notated in our law. Okay.
Thank you, guys. You have a good day, man.
You too.
This corrupt deputy may have gotten his way by using brute force and the most horrible tactics, but this cop didn't seem to have the same luck after he committed his crime.
Do hereby find the defendant Michael Amot guilty.
During August of 2017, a traffic stop in Euclid, Ohio turned violent, and the officer at fault, Michael Amot, was face to face with the full force of the law.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've advised the bailiff that you've arrived at a verdict. Have you arrived at a verdict?
Yes, sir.
If you would, please pass it to the bailiff.
This petulant cop had ground and pounded an innocent man, Hubbard, at the traffic stop, but now he would be getting beaten up by the jury's decision.
Case number 19CRB00890, verdict. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do hereby find the defendant Michael Amot not guilty of assault, a misdemeanor of the first degree in violation of Section 2903.13a of the Ohio Revised Code, as charged in Count 1. We do so render our verdict this 29th day of July, signed by all 8 jurors.
It might seem he got away with it, but there was another charge just waiting to be announced.
Verdict. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do hereby find the defendant Michael Amot guilty of assault, a misdemeanor of the first degree, in violation of Section 2903.13a of the Ohio Revised Code, as charged in Count 2. We do so render our verdict this 29th day of July, 2022.
It seems it couldn't get worse for Amot, but this dirty cop had more crimes to cross off his list.
Verdict. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do hereby find the defendant Michael Amot guilty of interfering with civil rights, a misdemeanor of the first degree, in violation of Section 2921.45a of the Ohio Revised Code, as charged in Count 3. We do so render our verdict this 29th day of July, 2022. Signed by all 8 jurors.
We look at a lot of cases on this channel, but ones like this where corrupt cops realize their actions have consequences are always the most satisfying.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are these your verdicts?
Yes, sir.
On behalf of the state, do you wish the jury polled?
No, Your Honor.
On behalf of the defendant, do you wish the jury polled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 1, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Are these your verdicts, I should say?
Yes.
Juror number 2, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 3, are these your verdicts?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 4, are these your verdicts? Juror number 5, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 6, are these your verdicts? Juror number 7, are these your verdicts? Juror number 8, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Anything further of the jury?
Amot must be even more embarrassed now because the whole jury unanimously found him guilty on 2 of his 3 accounts.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to thank you all for performing your civic duty. One of the things that I will say is that you've done your job. You came, you heard the evidence, you applied the law, you made a decision. The prosecutor had a job, the defense attorney had a job. Your job was not to prove anything or disprove anything. Your job was to determine what was presented to you, determine the facts, apply the law, render a verdict. You did that. You should leave feeling that you've done your job.
The judge leaves some wise words for the jurors in his usual professional tone, but underneath you can tell he is glad they gave this evil cop the convictions he deserves on his record.
1, a finding of not guilty. Count 2 and count 3, the court will enter a finding of guilty. The court will set this matter out for sentencing, given the fact that under Ohio law, the victim has the right to make a statement or present anything he may wish to present to the court. Consult with the attorneys and the court administrator and set this matter over for sentencing at a date that's agreeable for everyone.
His sentence was left for another day, but you can bet he got what he deserved. Meanwhile, the judge had some conciliatory last words to end this hectic case.
I want to thank everybody for their conduct. I know it got a little contentious at time, but that's to be expected sometimes. With that, we adjourn.
Shockingly, this case had a shocking update 7 years after the traffic stop took place. Despite noting excessive force was used during the arrest, an appeals court overturned the conviction of a Euclid police officer who was caught on camera beating a black driver during a 2017 traffic stop. In 2021, Hubbard received a $450,000 legal settlement from the city of Euclid in connection to the incident. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment below your thoughts. And if you liked this video, you'll love this next one where these dirty cops think they can get away with their crimes until they get instant karma in the courtroom.
Police!